present about the utility industry outlook in 2022. So, the utility industry will keep recovering in 2022. The domestic demand, improvement in the labor market, income commission, and ongoing policy support drive it grow by 14.2% in Malaysia in the third quarter of 2022 as well. Therefore, the earning stability is anticipated to maintain respectable dividend yields, making the sector an appealing investment opportunity for yield hunters as well. So, what is the purpose of us doing this project? We want to assess the past and current performance and appropriateness of enterprises, projects, budgets, and other financial-related operations of some corporations since 2020 and 2021. Therefore, our goods are selected the utility sector, which is listed in Bursa Malaysia as our main purpose to examine the performance of the corporations. So, what is the purpose of us doing this project? We want to assess the past and current performance and appropriateness of enterprises, projects, budgets, and other financial-related operations of some corporations since 2020 and 2021. Therefore, our goods are selected the utility sector, which is listed in Bursa Malaysia as our main purpose to examine the performance of the corporations. The fourth company that we choose are the Naga Nasional Berhad, Petronas Gas Berhad, Gas Malaysia Berhad, and Mega First Corporate Berhad as well.
And today I'm going to be speaking about the company backgrounds related to the assignment. The first one is Tenaga Nasional Berhad. It is founded in 1949 in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. It is the only electric company in peninsular Malaysia, and it is the largest utility provider in Malaysia with 67 years of experience. Then we have Gas Malaysia Berhad, established in 1992 to liberalize the third-party access regarding Tenaga and Petronas, which was already around at that time. It also used to supply of LPG or liquid petroleum gasoline and natural gas. It has 4 divisions, that is ports and logistics, energy and utilities, engineering and industrial development. The third one is Petronas Gas Berhad, founded in 1983 in Kuala Lumpur, widely known as an international organization with 30,000 personnel, along with 38 different nationalities. It has 9 branches in West Malaysia and 2 in East Malaysia. The last one is Mega First Corporation Berhad, incorporated in 1966 in Petaling Jaya, Selangor. It has 3 main divisions: renewable energy, resources, and packaging. It is mainly an investment holding company which invested in largely energy and resources, so it is now known as a renewable energy company. Next, we come to MD&A. The first one we see is Tenaga Nasional Berhad. As early as 2050, it plans to cut its economy overall carbon intensity by 45% in 2030. It should result in a GDP growth of 3.1 for the next year. The sustainability pathway to make Tenaga Nasional Berhad a greener organization for the future is one of their top priorities. Next, we come to Gas Malaysia Berhad. They are trying to ensure a steady and reliable gas supply for their customers. They want to form a strategic partnership with Malakov. Also, they're promoting an energy efficient way of presenting gas to all of their future providers. The next one is Petronas Gas Berhad. Petronas is trying to maintain an asset dependability at 99% to safeguard the value of the organization. Also, it is using a lot of digital ways of like graphics processing unit at technical centers. This use of graphics processing unit would also give a 30% increase in bump for the plant utilization gap. The last but not the least is Mega First Corporation Berhad. The completion of the Don Sahong's hydropower plant was a big step in renewable energy. Now they're also doing an international work, like in Cambodia, they're doing plantation development, also a solar photovoltaic power plant for net zero carbon emission by 2050. Come to the horizontal analysis of the balance sheet. First, we see that in Tenaga Nasional, the deferred tax asset is 184.43%. This is because the deferred tax asset is a source of cash, so it will increase while the use of cash increases. Then we have derivative financial instrument, which has gone down in the trend analysis for about negative 77.97%. This is because the financial instrument classified as derivatives include assets and liabilities, which values are reliant on the values of the underlying assets. Thus, it affects how the trading works in the financial market. So when the financial market was low, it hit both the derivative financial instrument. The tax recoverable was the only thing that remained constant for both of the year. That's because the government fixes those tax, and the tax almost remained constant for the entire 2 years. Then we come to Petronas. In Petronas, we see that Petronas balance sheet was remained constant for the share capital, which is at 0% in trend analysis, as the holders ordinary shares was qualified to accept dividends as declared from time to time. Then we come to their deferred income, which has decreased by negative 44.48%. This was mostly referring to the 21 to 2 million ringgit of advance payment received from a related party for the use of company's properties over time by the related party. At last, we see that a significant increase in the trend analysis by 294.46%, which is the taxation, as it was a high revenue year for them, thus an increase in the trend analysis. Onto Gas Malaysia, we can see that investment fund with licensed financial institutions had the highest in trend analysis with 436.36%. Then we can see that its borrowing had gone down for negative 90.09%. At last, the share capital was remained constant as any other companies, as a call payment was made and the paid up capital was equal. Then we come to MFCB, or Mega First Corporation Berhad. Its goodwill on consolidation was a 554.22% increase in the trend analysis. It is the highest percentage, as the growth rate are based on expected projected growth of resource segment and packaging segment. Then the asset classified as held for sale was a negative 100%, as the asset that was classified has still not sold. So as a result, it has remained 100% down in the trend analysis. At last, we have share capital, which remained constant for their both years, as no ordinary share was reissued to the public, thus keeping the trend analysis equal. Now we come to the comparison of balance sheet, where we see that the Mega First Corporation Berhad has the highest among any other and the lowest among any other, where we see that in non-current asset it had 17.32%, and the lowest was from Petronas Gas Berhad, which was 0.36%. Then we come to the current asset, which is 72.16% for MFCB, while the lowest was Tenaga Nasional Berhad at about negative 2.81%. Then we come to current liabilities, where still Tenaga Nasional Berhad was a negative 5.50 and the lowest, and MFCB was the highest with about 47.17%. Then at non-current liabilities, we see that GMB, or Gas Malaysia Berhad, had the lowest, which is negative 28.39%, which is a lot lower than any other, while MFCB still had the highest at about 13.24%. And at equity, we see that MFCB had the highest of about 26.50%, while the lowest was from Tenaga Nasional Berhad at 1.64%. Thus, we can end the comparison that saying, regardless of MFCB having the highest liabilities among the other companies and any other companies, it still has a lot of current assets and a lot of equities. Now we come to income statement, where Tenaga Nasional had a high increasing trend at about 852.23% in non-controlling interest, as it had an ownership position which a shareholder holds less than 50% of its share outstanding and has no decision-making authority, is referred as a non-controlling interest. So it had an increase of 0.4%, thus making an upward trend in the trend analysis. Then we come to foreign currency translation, which had a huge downward trend towards a negative 1,222.16%. This is due to the contrary of the earnings of a parent company's international subsidiaries are translated to the reporting of currency usage, and thus it had a significant reduction in its economy. Next, we come to Petronas, where the equity accounted for its joint venture is 721.36%. This is because the trend analysis of the share of a cash flow hedge of an equity is of a joint venture, thus increasing it by 721.36%. Next is the net movement from exchange differences, which resulted in a downward trend of negative 245.18%. Gas Malaysia Berhad had an upward trend of tax in their balance in their income statement of 3.42%. This is because tax was deducted from a potential significant rise in their profit as a generous tax deduction. Then we come to cash flow hedge, which is the lowest trend analysis of their income statement. This is due to the anticipated transaction as a major problem with cash flow hedge, and hedging is regarded as ineffective and loses its utility if changes in the cash flow of instruments are hedged without cancelling one another. Then we come to zakat, which remained constant because the amount of zakat is always same at 3,500 million ringgit for Gas Malaysia Berhad. Thus, they have no change in their trend analysis. Next, we come to MFCB, or Mega First Corporation Berhad, where we can see that their other income, or in their comprehensive other income statement, it had a huge upward trend of 1,453.80%. This is because all other income or comprehensive income for the paid up capital of Eleanor, which was around 40 million ringgit, was all of it is in residual value and their useful lives, and related depreciation and amortization charges for the property, plant, and their commercial factors became a technical innovation and competitor action in response to market conditions. Then their equity accounted for investment was a negative 1,108,860.64%. This is because of the changes in their value and of the capital that they paid of 2 million ringgit as they paid up. Thus, it had a huge consequence and their trend analysis was down for this year. Now we come to the comparison of income statement. In here, we can see that from the figure that the horizontal analysis of revenue, cost of goods sold, operating profit, profit before tax, and profit for the financial year, as well as the total comprehensive income for the financial year among Tennessee National Berhad, Gas Malaysia Berhad, Petronas Gas Berhad, and Mega First Corporation Berhad. All of these have a revenue and the highest proportion compared to any other was Tennessee National Berhad, following Mega First Corporation Berhad, which has 19.23%. After that, the trend analysis of revenue and Petronas Gas Berhad is 1.01%, which is lower than Tennessee National Berhad and MFCB. The trend analysis of Gas Malaysia Berhad revenue has the lowest proportion, which is negative 12.43%. Meanwhile, the horizontal analysis operating expenses in Mega First Corporation Berhad has the highest proportion, which has 38.80%. While Tennessee National Berhad has 19.91%. Besides that, the trend analysis of Petronas Gas Berhad operating expense is only negative 0.23%. Also, Gas Malaysia Berhad has the lowest proportion, which is 13.85%. Additionally, the highest proportion, which contains the Gas Malaysia Berhad is 14.98%, whereas Tennessee National Berhad consists of 9.84%. Furthermore, Mega First Corporation Berhad consists of 9.84%, and Petronas Gas Berhad has the lowest proportion, which is only negative 0.40%. Other than that, the horizontal analysis profit before tax in Mega First in the trend analysis of Gas Malaysia Berhad operating expense is 1.40%, and Petronas Gas Berhad is the lowest proportion, which only consists of 1.21%. Also, the MFCB has the highest proportion of profit financial year, which is 40.32%, following Gas Malaysia Berhad, which has 17.40%, and then the trend analysis of Tennessee National Berhad profit financial year has 6.87%, while Petronas Gas Berhad has only 1.40%. Last but not the least, the trend analysis of total comprehensive income for the year among 4 companies, that Mega First Corporation Berhad had the highest proportion, which consists of 78.62%, following Tennessee National Berhad, which consists of 67.56%. Next, Gas Malaysia Berhad, which has around 18.57%, and then last but not the least is Petronas Gas Berhad, which only consists of 1.73%. All in all, the statistics reveal that Mega First Corporation Berhad has a better performance in income statement compared to Petronas and Gas Malaysia. We come to the cash flow part of the horizontal analysis, where we can see that the Tennessee National had a disposal of right of use asset of upward trend at about 4,000%, which is because they had to sell their assets. Thus they have an increase of upward trend, while their inventories were down of negative 407.18%. This is because when they disposed their assets, some of their inventories were also sold. Their impairment losses on amount due from associates were constant from the previous year, as their associates did not lose. Now we come to Petronas, where the non-controlling interest was increased about 91.25%. This is because of the COVID-19 pandemic hit, as the US dollar was increased from 4.1 to 4.29%. Thus, the company had to sell off their US dollars and their foreign investment. Then we can see that the unrealized gains or losses from foreign exchange was negative 260.90%. This is because of their investment in foreign exchange, which also hurt them due to COVID-19 pandemic. Now, on to Gas Malaysia Berhad, where the disposal of property, plant, and equipment had 898.18% of upward trend, while their payable and contract liabilities were down by negative 292.53%. Then we come to MFCB, where they had an upward trend in profit before tax of about 228%, and they had a negative trend of net cash flow from investing activities of negative 2,608.95%. Their depreciation remained constant, as depreciation did not increase, as they did not have an increase in their assets. Thus, the depreciation remained constant for them. Present of cash flow. Here we can see that the horizontal analysis of Tennessee National Berhad, Petronas Gas Berhad, Gas Malaysia Berhad, and Mega First Corporation Berhad had a proportion of Tennessee National Berhad's net cash flow generation from operating activities of about negative 14.01%. This was from the investing activities of negative 27.86%, and the net cash flow generated from financing activities is 18.49%. Besides that, the proportion of Petronas Gas Berhad's net cash flow from operating activities is negative 7.78%. The net cash flow generated from investing activities is 2.57%, whereas the net cash flow generated from financing activities of Petronas is negative 52.27%. Meanwhile, the proportion of Gas Malaysia Berhad, the net cash flow generated from operating activities is 65.20%. The net cash flow generated from the investing activities is 408.21%, and the net cash flow generated from financing activities of Gas Malaysia Berhad is 57.96%. Lastly, the trend analysis of Mega First Corporation Berhad has a negative 8.8% proportion in net cash flow generated from operating activities. Then at last, we have the financing activities of Mega First Corporation Berhad, which is at 240.21%. To sum up, statistics reveal that Gas Malaysia Berhad has a better performance in the cash flow compared to Tennessee National Berhad, Petronas Gas Berhad, and Mega First Corporation Berhad.
I will continue the presentation with vertical analysis of balance sheet and income statement. For vertical analysis and balance sheet, firstly, Tenaga Nasional Berhad TNB shows the increasing of the current assets, which is receivables, deposits, and repayments from 2020 to 2021 at 1.98%. This is due to the recoverable agreement amount of 1161.4 million ringgit Malaysia that was realized in the financial year 2020 was used and balanced against the gas purchases beyond the promised volume, which is what caused the trend to grow. The financial assets at FVTPL shows a decreasing trend from 2020 to 2021 at negative 2.50%. This may indicate that TNB is facing asset deficiency, which is a sign of financial distress. The goodwill on consolidation remains constant in both years because the recoverable amount for both local and foreign investment as well as goodwill surpass the carrying amount. Next, second company is Petronas Gas Berhad (PGB). The current assets of PGB is the most significant rise in 2021. The difference in the vertical analysis of total current assets in 2021 and 2020 is 3.18%. Trade and other inventories, trade and other receivables, and cash and equivalents are the main reason for the total current assets in PGB in 2021 increase. The total non-current asset has significantly declined from 79.59% in 2020 to 75.41% in 2021. This is due to the investment in associate and deferred tax assets decrease, thereby affecting the non-current assets decline in 2021. The borrowing in the balance sheet is remain constant in 2021 and 2020 because the unsecured Islamic financing facility of 405940 ringgit Malaysia should extra be paid by the corporation. Third company is Gas Malaysia Berhad GMB. The number of investment funds in licensed financial institutions increased. This is so that the investments can be quantified at fair value and categorized as financial assets at fair value through profit and loss in connection to unquote investment funds with registered financial institutions. The cash and cash equivalent decreased from 8.76% in 2020 and 1.50% in 2021. By safety and profitably investing monetary assets including placing cash and cash equivalent and short-term deposit with reputable banks or financial institutions, risk is minimized. The investment and subsidiaries are zero because in the company's separate financial statements, subsidiary investment is carried at cost less at total impairment losses. Fourth company is Mega First Corporation Berhad. Goodwill on consolidation had the highest in the trend, about 554% as based on the expected projected growth rates of the resources segment and packaging segment. The disposal of buildings, which is structures erected on land located at District of Tawau, Sabah, and plant assets, which is facilities, equipment, plant, machinery, spare parts, and fuels, at a total consideration of 3 million ringgit Malaysia which make the trend analysis lowest at about 100%. The inventories remain the same. The trade financing and loans of group bear interest rates ranging from 1.01% to 3.04% per annum. This figure shows the vertical analysis of the balance sheet among TNB, PGB, GMB, and MFCB for 2020 and 2021. First, for the vertical analysis, the current assets in the balance sheet among the four companies, the TNB has the highest proportion, which contains 0.53%, while GMB has negative 1.47%. Following is PGB. Its proportion consists at negative 3.18%. The MFCB has the lowest ratio, which contains negative 5.57%. Besides that, according to the vertical analysis in the balance sheet, the MFCB has the highest proportion, 5.57% in the current asset. Then is PGB, whose proportion has 3.18%, while GMB has 1.47%. Also, the TNB has the lowest proportion, negative 0.5% in the current assets. Next is for vertical analysis of income statement. First company is TNB. The total comprehensive income of financial year shows increase from 2020 to 2021 at 2.86% due to the TNB's capital raise by the equity shareholders and the increase in non-controlling interest, NCI. The profit before finance cost decreased from 2020 to 2021 at negative 1.56% due to either TNB's ineffective cost structure or the company having a decrease in sales, or might as well be a combination for both situations. Second company is PGB. The non-controlling interest increased from 1.30% in 2020 to 2.17% in 2021. That consists the non-controlling interest proportion of share capital and reserve of a partly owned subsidiary. Thereby, it might have significant potential to increase in 2021. The revenue remains constant in 2020 and 2021. The revenue is taken as the best number for examining the income statement of the common size analysis of PGB. Third company is Gas Malaysia Berhad. The cost of sales of GMB increased by 1.47% from 2020 to 2021. Net income would drop if the cost of products sold increase. Tax expense or credit are decreased from 2020 to 2021, which decreased by negative 0.20%. This demonstrates that the tax was subtracted. The key benefit of the high tax deduction associated with oil and gas investing is the possible significant increase in realized earning. The selling distribution expenses remain constant from 2020 to 2021 with negative 0.01% respectively. GMB does not require a lot of selling distribution costs to market their business, hence this cost have stayed steady. Fourth company is Mega First Company Berhad. The other comprehensive income was increased by 16.52% from 1.37% in 2020 to 17.89% in 2021. Even if the income statement continues to be the major gauge of a company's performance, other comprehensive income increases the accuracy and transparency of financing reporting. Besides that, tax expense is decreased negative 0.48% from 2020 to 2021, which is from negative 1.45% to negative 0.97%. Because tax expense is a liability that must be paid to the federal or state government, it has an impact on a company's net earnings. The cost lowers the amount of profits that may be paid out as dividends to shareholders. This figure shows the vertical analysis of TNB, PGB, GMB, and MFCB's income statements for 2020 and 2021. Firstly, MFCB has the highest proportion of operating expenses, following is GMB, which has 1.47%, while PGB has 0.65%. Also, the TNB has the lowest proportion, which contains negative 0.16%. Besides that, the vertical analysis of operating profit in GMB has the highest proportion, 1.37%, whereas PGB is negative 0.67%. Next, TNB has a negative 1.38% portion. The MFCB has the lowest proportion, which has negative 5.60%. Other than that, for the vertical analysis of profit before tax in the income statement, among the four companies, MFCB has the highest portion, which has 8.72%, the GMB has 1.30% of portion, and PGB has 0.09%. However, TNB has the lowest proportion, which contains negative 0.63%.
Financial ratio first is liquidity ratio. For current ratio, the higher is Petronas gas per half, while the lowest is gas Malaysia per half. For quick ratio, the higher is Petronas gas per half, while the lowest is gas Malaysia per half. For cash ratio, the higher is Petronas gas per half. Lowest is Mega First Corporation per half in 2020, gas Malaysia per half in 2021. Net working capital ratio, the higher is Petronas gas per half, while the lowest is Tenaga Nasional per half. Second, leverage ratio. For debt ratio, the higher is Tenaga Nasional per half, while the lesser is Petronas gas per half in 2020 and Mega First Corporation per half in 2021. Debt to equity ratio, the higher is Tenaga Nasional per half, while the lesser debt to equity ratio is Petronas gas per half in 2020 and Mega First Corporation per half in 2021. High interest earned, the highest is Mega First Corporation per half in 2020, gas Malaysia per half in 2021, while the lowest is Tenaga Nasional per half. Long-term debt to total capitalization, the highest is Tenaga Nasional per half, while the lowest is the gas Malaysia per half. Third is profitability ratio, net profit margin. The highest is Mega First Corporation per half, while the lowest is gas Malaysia per half. Basic earning power, the highest is gas Malaysia per half, while the lowest is Tenaga Nasional per half. Return on total asset, the highest is Mega First Corporation per half, while the lowest is the Tenaga Nasional per half. Return on equity, the highest is gas Malaysia per half in 2020, while the Mega First Corporation per half in 2021. Lowest is Tenaga Nasional per half. The fourth is operating efficiency ratio. For account receivable turnover, the highest is Malaysia per half, while the lowest is Mega First Corporation per half. Account payable turnover, the highest is Malaysia per half in 2020, Mega First Corporation per half in 2021. The lowest is Petronas gas per half. Inventory turnover, the highest Petronas gas per half, while the lowest is Mega First Corporation per half. Fixed asset turnover, gas Malaysia per half had the highest, while the Mega First Corporation per half had the lowest.
Next is segment analysis. Segment analysis of TNB is not provided. The company's primary activities are the production, transmission, distribution, and sale of electricity, the custom of internal reporting at the moment. Next, Petronas Gas Berhad has four reportable segments, which is gas processing, gas transportation, regasification, and utilities. Gas processing is the highest revenue, operating profit, and capital expenditure. Regasification is the highest in identifiable assets. Next, Gas Malaysia Berhad that have three reportable segments, which are natural gas and LPG, others, and elimination. Overall, natural gas and LPG is the highest in all segments. Lastly is Mega First Corporation Berhad, have five reportable segments. Renewable energy is the highest in revenue and capital expenditure. Investment holding and others is the highest in operating profit, and elimination is the highest in ROI.
Altman Z-score model is an effective method of predicting the state of financial distress of any organization by using multiple balance sheet values and corporate income. The Altman Z-score model takes into consideration 5 independent variables, and each of them represents the financial ratios. A score below 1.8 signals the company is likely headed for bankruptcy, while companies with scores above 3 is in solid financial positioning. Based on the table, the Tenaga Nasional Berhad showed a Z-score of 1.75 in 2020 and 1.72 in 2021, which is in the position of distress zone. Though this may indicate that the company is facing financial distress, however, during the financial years, the company is struggling due to the pandemic COVID-19. As for Petronas Gas Berhad, the percentage of Z-score is also less than 1.8, which is 1.48 in 2020 and 1.61 in 2021. This indicates that the company is located in distress zone, and it is predicted that the company will be exposed to financial failure. On the other hand, Guess Malaysia Berhad showed a Z-score of 3.71 in 2020 and 3.12 in 2021, which is in the position of safe zone and not likely to go bankrupt. This is because if a firm has a Z-score of 3 or higher, investors may think about buying the company stock because there is little chance of the company going out of business within the next 2 years. Lastly, Mega First Corporation Berhad Z-score percentage is below 1.8 in 2020 and 2021, corresponding to 1.44 and 1.11 respectively. This may imply that the company is in dire straits and will face financial ruin. Fair value is the estimated price at which an asset is bought or sold when both the buyer and seller freely agree on the price. On the contrary, current value is the present market value. Based on the table, the fair value of TNB is 10 ringgit and 90 cent while the current value is 9 ringgit and 48 cent. This shows that TNB is undervalued by 13.6%. Besides that, the fair value of PGB is 16 ringgit and 6 cent and the current value is 17 ringgit and 10 cent. Therefore, it can be said that the stock price of PGB is considered overvalued by 6.5%. As for GMB, the fair value of GMB is 2 ringgit and 51 cent while the current value is 3 ringgit and 18 cent. The stock price of GMB is considered overvalued by 26.5%. Last but not least, the fair value of MFCB is 7 ringgit and 26 cent while the current value is 3 ringgit and 37 cent. This implies that the stock price of MFCB is considered undervalued by 53.6%. All in all, among the four companies, TNB and MFCB have undervalued of 13.6% and 53.6%. However, MFCB has a greater proportion of undervalued, thus the asset of MFCB is an investment that can be purchased for less than its intrinsic value.
So the conclusion is that the MFCB is the best performance among the TNB, PGB, and GMB as well. It because MFCB has a higher profit margin than the other companies, and it has a higher ROA, and it was the less indebted in both 2020 and 2021. And MFCB is undervalued by 53.6% as well. However, even though the outmarket score of the MFCB in the distressed zones in 2021, therefore we suggest that MFCB can carry on the planning behind the process of extending their business by continuing the other subsidiary operations and maximizing the availability of different segments, which can improve its management and improvements in their corporate standing as well.